Hey everybody, it's time for Old Roommates. Today on the show, we revisit 1997's Chasing Amy. So bring on the hooch and have a seat. The show is about to begin.
Welcome, everyone, to Old Roommates, the only podcast that revisits pop culture through a middle-aged lens. This is Christina.
And this is Brian.
And as Brian mentioned, we are revisiting Chasing Amy, the Kevin Smith-directed movie from 1997, starring Ben Affleck. Brian, we begin this episode as we always do. Tell us your history with Chasing Amy.
It also stars Joey Lauren Adams, Christina. It's gonna be one of those kind of episodes.
Oh, it is.
So I was obsessed with this movie.
Interesting.
Because I've said many times in this podcast, there was such a dearth of LGBTQ characters in the 80s and 90s. And so this is 97, but I just remembered being excited by the idea of they're going to actually deal with like a lesbian character. Then as you're seeing it, it's more of a bisexual thing, but there's so much talk about being gay, being straight, being both, and I found it so refreshing. The dialogue I found so fun and very pop culture-y. This, as much as, I will say the language, because I'm a goody two-shoes, was jarring. A lot of C words, which are always jarring. And of course the F word, this derogatory term for a gay person, was said in abundance. At the same time, though, they're not really said aggressively. It's almost like they're said between friends, and they're almost terms of endearment. So, but I thought it felt so fresh to me. I loved it. It felt gritty. It felt grittily made, I should say. And I thought it was great. I just loved it.
So how did you feel about it, Bri?
I hated it.
That never gets old.
Never gets old.
I feel for the people for like our loyal listeners who listen to every single episode. And we do that every time.
Guys, please. No, but I really did love it. Christina, how about you?
Oh my gosh, finally. Thank you for asking. So I remember watching this movie in the movie theater.
Same, yes. Sorry, I should have said that. Yeah.
We didn't see this together, did we?
But here's the thing. I remember I feel like it was playing in Boston. There was a time in the 90s where I would drag you.
Yeah.
I dragged Shiva. I dragged Kerry to these any movie with a gay.
I feel like we might have seen this together.
Yeah, a lot of times anytime there's a gay, an independent movie, there's often a gay character. So it's but they only showed them in Boston. Mm-hmm. So I would drag either you, Kerry, or Shiva.
I used to love those things.
Yeah,
I used to love going there.
But I
remember
think
seeing Chuck and Buck. We haven't.
Oh my God, that's right.
Chuck and Buck. We should revisit that.
For the 3 people that saw it,
right? But Mike White is so
true.
So
yeah, White
hot
Lotus.
these days.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, good. Sorry.
Let's get back.
So I brought you to the movies.
So we'll say you brought me to the movie. I almost feel like I don't remember who I saw it with. I think it was you. And I remember liking it too. I remember I felt very hip and cool that I saw this movie. I felt like I was in that underground scene of that cool movie with the cool language and just, it felt good. It felt like a good movie to see. I felt like I was more intelligent after I left the theater. It was one of those movies. I will tell you, my first impression, though, of watching this movie were 2 things. And it had to do with Joey Lauren. Yeah. And I had never seen her in anything else. Yeah. One was, it was disturbing how much she looked like Renee Zellweger. Yeah. And I was thinking, it took me a little bit to be like, what? Am I the only one that sees this? I remember being just really distracted by it. And her voice annoyed me to no end in the entire movie. And I just kept thinking, why? Who casted this woman? aside from that, I did like it. I did like that it created conversations about the homosexual community. It just talked a lot about it. And you're right, there was a lot of language. There was a lot of derogatory statements about gays. But I never felt like they were throwing these things in to be gratuitous, right?
Yeah,
I just felt like there was always a purpose of it. So the Jason Lee character was obviously homophobic, and that character would say the things that he said because of his mixed feelings and all that. So I never felt like it was thrown in just to be
it's not like Saturday Night Fever.
Exactly.
Right, which
it was purposely put in there. So it didn't make me feel uncomfortable. Sometimes these movies just make me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. For anyone not getting the Saturday Night Fever reference, that movie is filled with derogatory slurs and everything else for a variety of people.
Yes, everybody's been insulted,
and they're like the good guys in the movie, and they're as racist as can be, and sexist and homophobic.
But yeah, I did like this movie. I may have seen it once or twice after, but not. I mean, it wasn't anything I would seek out or anything.
Yeah.
But
definitely had. I feel like I had it on VHS or DVD. Definitely had seen it multiple times back then.
Not one of those movies you put on in the video store.
Not a video store movie. No. When did you rewatch it?
So I rewatched it a few weeks ago, actually, and I was curious how it would stand up because you do have those memories of like just these conversations, and I was just curious how it would stand up in this day and age because I think now people talk about sexuality constantly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on the news, it's in the schools, it's everywhere. Everybody's always talking about identifying and things like that. So I was really curious how this movie would stand up. So what about you? Like, when did you start watching? I don't want to go
our friend from Germany was here, friend Johanna. I think it's okay to say this. She is a ladies' lady. She's part of the LGBT community, Q community. And I love that you said homosexuals earlier. I don't think you've ever said that word in my presence. Don't ever let it happen again.
Gays, is that better?
Gays is so much better. But so what's funny is I had started watching. I'm like, I want to watch my movies before because when she visits, like we just go out a lot and all that.
Sure.
So I'm like, but I only got halfway through. So I'm like, you know what? I kind of want her perspective on this. Like, she's not from America. She is part of the LGBTQ community. I don't think she's ever seen it before. And so she had never seen it before. So then I basically watched this 1.5 times.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, you started over.
Yes, I started over. And that was, so she just left. So it was like a week ago. And so, I want to dive into this, but I'll just say quickly what she said afterwards.
Yeah, I wanted you to tell me.
So she watched the whole thing. I was expecting some, like winces and oh my goodness and commentary. She was really pretty quiet for most of it, and at the end, I was like, "What'd you think?" She's like, "That was edgy." Like, and it's funny. This movie's from '97, but I'm gonna be honest. I felt similarly. I was like, wow, this still feels edgy. Maybe because back then, like you're saying, oh, you felt cool and smart, like watching it. Like, it did feel very ahead of its time, even though it's problematic now. There are some things that are problematic. Just as a plot, it's problematic. But I think the dialogue, the situations, the candor of these conversations keeps it feeling a bit fresh. Now, on paper, the plot is a mess nowadays, but I still felt it had this charge to it. How about you? Like, immediate thoughts?
I felt very similarly. It felt like real conversations people would be having.
Yeah.
But again, I agree that the plot was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Really cringy. Some of these
now it's cringy. I don't think I felt that then, though.
I didn't. I definitely did not feel cringy about it when I first saw it. But now, I think because people are so much more forthcoming about their homosexuality.
Christina, no!
Oh, sorry. I thought we were doing that now. Just kidding. But I think people are so much better at being forthcoming about their sexuality.
Yeah.
It seemed, it just seemed odd that I felt like what she was saying was not accurate about how she was feeling. Do you know what I mean by that?
Well, she was lying.
She was saying, yeah.
She was lying about her past. She's lying about her past.
Yes.
And then because that's the big twist. And I think that this is the big problem nowadays with this movie, watching it through a middle-age lens in 2023. Because I can see someone watching this movie going, oh my God, this movie's about a guy trying to flip a lesbian into a straight woman, or turn a lesbian into a straight woman. But I don't know why you would listen to this episode if you haven't seen the movie, but what essentially you realize is that that's not really true. She is sexually adventurous. We would call that bisexual. That word bisexual is never said in this movie.
Never, I know. Isn't
but
that
it's really
funny?
like kind of it's like a plot twist that felt very, just kind of par for the course the first time I saw it. And this time I was like, oh, well, so it's really not like through this current time, she is bisexual, but she's ashamed almost of her adventurousness when she was younger.
Yes.
So it's very layered, which I think it still makes it entertaining, but I think when you're first starting off this movie, this is about a guy who falls in love with a lesbian and wants to change her, which is pretty gross. And I'll tell you, my big note in terms of a negative is Holden, played by Ben Affleck. Holden is an awful character.
Terrible.
What an awful guy.
Before I get into that,
yeah, sorry.
I just want to say what you're saying before about, the whole like ashamed of the past and stuff.
Yeah.
When it takes that turn,
yeah,
and it becomes about her past,
yeah,
the sexuality part of it, the lesbianism, it's a non-issue. Right. It doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
That she is or was or identifies as a lesbian.
Right.
That is irrelevant because her sexual craziness he has a problem with because it was with boys. If it was two girls, I don't think he would have had that same problem.
I also felt there was an element of that she's had a lot more sex than him.
Well, yeah, obviously. But I mean, with the second you meet her, she's had more sex than
Oh, that's true. When they're sitting at the table and she has all those stories.
Yeah. I mean, it's bizarre that the whole sexuality part of it is not even. It's not
really
even
not
relevant.
about that.
It's not relevant at all.
Yeah.
And that I have a lot of issues. Let's talk about Holden because Holden is a terrible, terrible character.
I have so many notes to say. Holden is a jerk. Holden is rude. Holden is really pushy. Like he's a jerk. I mean. There's so many things, and I don't just mean towards Alyssa.
No,
the character's name is Alyssa. But how about like he's hung out with her like on a swing set, and then they played darts. Oh no, that was before. He played darts with her.
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh, you're going away on a work thing."
Yep.
And he fucking bails on his friend to go to Boston for Comic-Con.
Right.
And he bails on her to hang out in a park with Alyssa. It's like, I would be so pissed at my friend.
Yeah.
Like that, like they're ditching me for a girl or a boy, doesn't even matter. But it's like, for someone you met 2 days ago, this is your career. Like you're hot. Like right now, you have these deals going on. Like this is the time to invest more, not pull back.
Yeah, this was a terribly written character. He's not a good friend. He's not a good boyfriend. He's not a good business person. He's not good at any of this stuff. My first note was, are they successful? Because they were at Comic-Con or something like that at the beginning, right? When they first meet everybody. But I couldn't figure out the level of success that they were in.
That's fair. I also didn't understand because when they go to see the people that want to do the animated series, right?
Yep.
Why are they going? Where's their agent?
Right.
Like seems like they coordinated that deal on their own. It's like they have no agent. Where's the fucking publisher? They don't have a publisher? Of course they have a publisher. So it's like I feel like it is very murky. At the same time, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen after I say this, but even for a successful comic book creator, I don't know what salary is
Right.
for a comic
You're
book
right.
creator. It's
Absolutely
like, who
right.
knows? I mean, but I do know that, there is a big business in comics, and maybe they, get, I don't know, paid for some appearances. I don't know, but fair point.
Well,
Fair point.
I also know I'm not going to ditch work for a girl I met 2 days ago.
That's true. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah. How about when they're eating at the diner? She's fucking has a mouthful of food.
Oh my God.
Do you remember? Do you know what I'm talking about, right?
It's so gross.
She has a mouthful of food. She's still eating, and he's like, he says something along the lines of like, it would be nice if you picked up the check once. Oh no, he said you should totally talk to my publisher. Oh no, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Cut. He says, I wish you had the animation deal. And she's like, why? Chewing food. And he goes, because then you could pick up the check once in a while. First of all, that's such a dick. They're on a date. The second thing, he's like, come on, we're leaving. And she's like, we're leaving? She's eating, Holden. Yeah. She still has food in her mouth.
He is such a dick.
And he goes, yeah, it's not a bed and breakfast. I'm like, you're a dick.
Yeah.
I mean, you're so
rude. I don't understand why either of them liked this person.
Hi, and let's flash back 5 minutes ago. You fucking ditched work to hang out with this amazing girl, and then you're criticizing her because she's still eating. She wants to hang out and have a nice cup of coffee, and you're like forcing her?
Bizarre.
For what reason are you forcing her out of this diner?
It is bizarre. He doesn't treat anyone fairly at all.
Oh, and then, goddamn, that scene, I thought much less of it then, even though it's a pinnacle point, but when he is pitching this idea of a threesome.
Oh my God, yeah.
This time around, oh my God, how she didn't beat the shit out of him.
Oh my God,
She
seriously?
does hit him. She hits him. And she says, I'm not your whore. But holy shit. It is so rude. It comes across through my middle-aged lens. So rude. So kind of rapey. Feels very pressure. He's really pressuring her. It does
very
not.
Pimpy.
That is
very pimpy.
Very pimpy. It does not. It has aged very poorly.
Yeah. It really poorly.
Yeah.
A lot of this movie aged pretty poorly. One of my bigger problems is Amy. I keep saying Amy. It's not Amy. It's Alyssa. It's chasing Alyssa. So they are friends. Mm-hmm. She has made it abundantly clear on several occasions that she is a lesbian. And she is not interested. Despite all the flirting and all that kind of stuff, which is fine, whatever. Yeah. She can flirt if she wants to.
Totally.
Then he proposes, they go out, right? He proposes that she date him. Mm-hmm. She gives him in the middle of the rain and all this kind of stuff, right? She gets out of the car. She's pissed. She gives this amazing speech. I think I wrote some of it down. A really good speech. She's like, here's my comment. Fuck you. Do you remember for 1 second who I am? And then she's like, a period of adjustment? There's no period of adjustment. I'm gay. You assume I can turn that off because you have a crush? And she's screaming.
It's really,
It's a great, and I'm like, yeah, good for you, lady. Good for you.
But then
2 seconds later, she's fucking up.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I think that's where it's like I feel like it's a really good perforence from her.
I think
Joey
so too.
Lauren Adams.
I liked her a lot better this time than I did before.
Yeah. I loved her back then too. Her voice is. Her voice.
It didn't bother me as much this time.
I got used to it pretty quick, but my first note was, the voice. I forgot about that. But that at the time, she was Kevin Smith's girlfriend, and he was inspired to write this story because she had a lot more sexual history than he did. Yeah. And he felt very insecure about it, so he decided to write about it and cast her in it. She got a Golden Globe nomination. I think she won a couple. She won the Las Vegas Film Critics Awards and Chicago Film Critics Awards Best Actress. So it's a really great performance. It really is. But I think that's where it gets screwy though, because it's still essentially a Kevin Smith movie. Like it has to be that way. Like it has to be that way. But it's unfortunate because she's so convincing. To your point, she's so convincing and so right with what she's saying. And at that point, we don't know about her past.
No, we don't.
And so you're kind of like...
we get that she was sexually active, though. I mean...
Yeah, no, I know. But she's still a lesbian. We don't know about finger cuffs, right? So... But I think that's really the struggle with this movie is like, for me as a gay guy, the first time I saw this, I was like, oh, this is bullshit. Because I wrote this thing, it's like, it was always very annoying as a gay moviegoer because a lot of the movies like Object of My Affection with Jennifer Aniston and Paul Rudd, Billy's Hollywood Screen Kiss with Sean Hayes, The Opposite of Sex with Christina Ricci, The Birdcage even with Robin Williams.
Right.
All of them, they feature these gay characters that always have this fucking sexual conflict with a member of the opposite sex.
Yeah,
it's
annoying.
Like, it's annoying. It's like, gay people are gay. And so even when this happened way back when the first time I saw that scene, when she starts making out with him after this brilliant speech, it's like, oh, come on, this is such a movie. But then I forgave it after the finger cuffs plot twist. Does that make sense? Because it's like, oh, well, she's not really a lesbian.
Did forgive it, but I really felt like the timing was really shitty. So I think they did it the way that they did so that they could have that moment in the rain, making out. Okay, got it. It's a movie. I think it would have been a lot more effective if they had ended the scene there.
Yeah.
And then maybe the next day, or even that night, whatever.
Yeah.
After she had a minute to think about it.
Yeah.
After she had a minute to calm down and think about it. And then show up at his doorstep.
Yeah.
And be like, whatever. Almost like if she had that conversation that she had with him while they were laying in bed. About her, basically why she identified as a lesbian. If she showed up at the door, gave that sort of speech, and then they make out and have sex.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have made so much more sense.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense to me otherwise, because she's a strong character.
Yeah, and emotionally it didn't make sense. She's so angry. That's quite the flip.
Yeah, I'm so angry. I'm so angry at this man.
I'm gonna make out with you.
I'm so angry at this man, which is essentially why she turned to women in the first place, correct? Like she said it herself that she was like just like hated men.
Yeah.
And couldn't imagine what'd she say? She's like I couldn't imagine I don't know what it was. Anyway, I don't know what I didn't write down. So, but she couldn't like imagine being with a man because they treated her poorly or something like that.
Right, yeah.
So now she's mad at this man, so she's gonna fuck him.
Yeah, I don't
like
get
it doesn't make sense
at
all.
Even his speech in the car. I mean, I think that's well acted as well. I just was like, even with that montage and all that, like I still felt this is moving a little fast. And his monologue, I felt like is probably would almost makes more sense like 2 years into a situation, not a few weeks or a couple months. It just sounded very red flaggy to me.
Yeah. Definitely.
Holden's a rough kind of character.
Yeah. And it did, and it what was really interesting too was with him, the montages that you see, the times where they're happiest is when they're being friends.
That's right.
So, to me, I'm looking at it like, okay, they get along great as friends. Like, why does he think it's something more? It didn't make any sense to me then.
Because he's in love with her.
Because he's in love with her after 10
that's
seconds.
Why. Yeah, that's why.
Love the 80s.
90s.
97.
Right?
Oh, yeah. I was thinking, like,
So we jumped around a lot, but I'll go back to the thing where they have the Q&A thing with Dwight Ewell is the actor's name. Hooper is the character's name. He is fantastic.
He's amazing. He was my favorite part this time around, and I barely remembered him from before.
Same. He's not necessarily my favorite part, but I loved him so much more this time around. But then, it is funny, like he calls her a pile of PMS. He's like, this pile of PMS is Alyssa Jones. And I did write, oh God, her voice. Uh-oh. But then there's so much good dialogue. I really liked it. Even with Ben Affleck saying, he's trying to make her laugh and be like edgy. And he's talking about being an altar boy. And he's like, I'm just a fan of clergy molestation humor. Mm-hmm. That was a very interesting choice of words.
Definitely.
He didn't say child.
True.
Right. He said clergy. I thought it was a smartly worded joke, as blue as it is. I did like a lot of I'm going to be really honest. Banky is cute. I actually found him to be pretty funny.
I did too.
I really did. My only thing is that when he blows up, I think the acting's just too intense. Like when he blows up at Holden and he's like, come on, man, he has every right to be mad. I don't know if he should be that mad because he's really being nasty. That's when I said earlier, like, well, they're not really said in derogatory ways. When he's fighting, he does refer to Alyssa Jones as like a few choice words, and he's setting it in anger, and that's when I felt like that's wrong.
I did not like that either.
Yeah.
It didn't seem. I mean, he's screaming these things about her, and I'm like, what is his beef with her?
Exactly, and
like,
it's not.
What's the big deal? Like, she's never been mean to him.
Exactly,
and it was almost.
And they got along.
They got along fine.
They got along really well. Yeah,
and it was weird that he was so below the belt with her, even though we figure out, well, I mean, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure out that he had feelings for Holden. God knows why. But it was just really a little too over the top.
Mm-hmm.
A little too over the top. It would have been a little bit better to me if it was a little more subtle in like showing the yearbook page and be like, oh well, look what I came across, like versus in a more subtle way than well, this is what I heard, It was just weird.
It was a lot of emotion. And if there had been maybe...
It was probably directed that way, is my
guess.
I'm
sure, yeah. Like, make it, add some tension. I think, but I do think he's cute in this. Jason Lee, I think he's cute. I do think he's ridiculous, but I think it's, I felt like I kind of knew that character before his blowout. I mean, I think, like, you kind of know that wise-ass kind of guy, like, with all the,
Absolutely.
But,
very relatable, I think.
I thought so. I mean, there's, of course, a lot of the homophobic, like... But here's the thing. At one point, Hooper kisses him right on the lips.
Yes.
And all he does is be like, come on, man. Like, it's like, so, I mean, yeah. Is he homophobic? I don't think so. Does he say the word faggot a lot? Yeah. She's no Danny Terrio. I love that they are going to a place called Meow Mix and they have no clue in their mind it could be a lesbian bar. I mean, if you live, I guess maybe not. They lived in Jersey and they were going to the city. Maybe they wouldn't know it was a lesbian bar.
So, but once you're in there, I wrote, that was one of the things. Straight men didn't notice it was a lesbian bar.
Right.
Like, that is unbelievable to me.
Yeah.
He was funny in there when he starts clapping enthusiastically.
Yes. I will say, I love that whole scene where she sings. I love that she sings, and then Holden thinks like, oh, she's totally flirting with me. I really do think it's done well.
I didn't love his. I'm sorry. You can.
Okay, yeah. So I was gonna say is like, but one thing I noticed this time around, because knowing about the Banky, maybe having feelings for him, is that during this lusty song, Holden does look at. Banky does look at Holden quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you can kind of take that a couple different ways. What I did find funny, though, is that when the blonde girl does emerge between them, Holden doesn't even register what's even happening. And I found that to be pretty funny. And I thought the kiss was just completely gratuitous and outrageous and ridiculous, but I still loved that whole scene.
I loved the scene. Mm-hmm. I loved that he was played like that. Like, I loved that. I thought it was really weird how he's sexy dancing. Like, that was my big thing with him. He's, like, sitting in the crowd. He's, like, kind of touching himself and swinging back and forth. And he's, like, I'm like, ew.
But
like, even if I was singing to him, and I would be like, nope, I'm not. That was weird.
But remember, too, he does that before when he's, like, when he's talking to Banky about seeing Alyssa that night, he's doing the sexy dance. And he goes behind Banky and does a little, like, butt slap kind of thing. And it's like, oh. And Banky, again, is like, oh, knock it off. But, like, kind of liking it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's, so maybe that's just part of Holden's awful personality.
I think that's really what it is. I really think that's what it is.
I will say, that scene where they're sitting at the table and they're talking about oral sex and all that.
It's so good.
It's so good. And I will say, I think in the very beginning, though, Holden tries to shut Banky down because Banky's asking a lot of personal questions. I have my note where I think Banky is doing the right thing.
Yes.
phobia, homophobia, any phobias and fears. It's like it's what you don't understand or what you don't know. And so Banky is learning. He's asking questions. I think it's much healthier than just calling someone the D word or a carpet blanker or all these things, than actually sitting there going, so wait a minute, you like women, blah, blah, blah. Like, he's actually doing the right thing.
I thought it was awesome, too.
Maybe his tone's a little different, but he's right. I mean, I think
he's 1,000%
and Holden
right.
keeps trying to shut it down.
He is a much better character than Holden.
Yeah.
Holden is, he's just a terrible character, and I think it's really interesting that they're trying to sort of present Banky as the villain in this movie.
Yeah.
And he's really not. I mean, aside from a couple of over-the-top choices, he's not
He's
that
accepting people at the things they say until he hears that bit of news at the gas station. But he's accepting people for things of how they're identifying with him. And then he's asking about it or calling it out.
Yes.
And, like, that's better than Holden being ignorant and being like, well, that doesn't work for me.
Right.
That's not how life is.
And even when he does get that information from the gas station, right?
Yeah.
Is essentially doing the right thing. He is telling Holden that, hey, he's protecting his friend.
That's right.
He's like,
I think I would do that too.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's like, hey, she's saying that she's a lesbian. She's never been with a boy, but guess what? Like, she has been, and she's lying to you. So just be aware of that. Like, I don't see too much of a hit. I mean, there is a hidden agenda, but I don't see too much of a hidden agenda from him. I think even if Holden didn't like blow him off and he wasn't already angry at him about other things, if all of that had gone away, he still would have probably said, look, I found this out about your ex-girlfriend. Mm-hmm. And I think that you should know and maybe talk to her about it.
You would do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would.
Yeah,
If I found out that,
I think what made it crass is that they actually hit the guy's account of the rumor.
So gross.
Yeah, and that I thought was so gross that it almost made you feel bad for Alyssa.
Well, then make it, and I think, I think the intent was not to have her make you feel bad. I think the intent was to get that, like, dirty, like, image of her.
That she's this dirty
be on
liar.
Holden's side. Like, I think this whole movie is trying to get you to be on Holden's side.
Which blows my mind.
Right?
Because I'm sure I didn't catch it in 1997.
And I probably was more on his side back then.
Look at this poor guy. He loves her so much. And now I'm like, he
it's,
needs to accept what she's saying and leave her alone.
And don't you feel like it's a middle-aged lens?
Oh, completely.
Right? It's like...
It changes the whole movie.
It's
like,
oh my God,
wait a minute.
completely.
Someone says, I'm lesbian. That's the end of the conversation. You can be her
that
friend.
is
Don't fucking pressure her.
And you know what? So what if she did have sex with men before? It's not to say that she's not a lesbian
now.
That she's identifying as a lesbian now.
Completely
that doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, completely right. And also... pulling your car over in a fucking rainstorm.
Oh my God.
She can't get out, although she does anyway, which is good.
For her.
But she can't get out. And then and that's why the speech is so good and it's why the kiss is so disappointing. Because you're right. It's like, he's really, it's almost irrelevant. Her entire lifestyle is irrelevant. Just because he likes her.
None of his goddamn business.
Male,
this is
chauvinist, pig.
On him. That is,
Holden is the worst character. Worst character in 90s cinema.
Ever. Forget about 90s. Ever. But it is not her responsibility to make him feel better about his
completely.
Past.
Preach, Christina. Preach.
Fuck you, Holden.
I'm pretty sure it was around the same time that Ben Affleck almost hit on you at that club.
Oh my God, it probably was, yeah.
Anyway,
maybe
so
that's why I didn't want my phone number.
The hockey scene I found very funny. Because he's so bad at tiptoeing around the bush, so to speak, and so
tiptoeing around the bush.
Is that the expression?
Wowza.
Is that the expression?
Talking about lesbianism again?
Wait, what's the expression? Tiptoeing.
I don't think it's...
What's the phrase?
Why would you tiptoe around a bush?
I don't know. Wait. Oh yeah, don't tiptoe around the conversation.
Beating around the bush.
Beating her. Oh my God.
I'm not not sure why we're beating around a bush either, but it's not tiptoeing around a bush.
Beating around a bush, Christina?
Right,
oh, God.
You want to beat the bush, not beat around the bush.
Well,
no.
yeah,
I suppose. Middle-aged lens, people.
Oh my God, it's so gross. All right, so I did find the hockey scene funny with him tiptoeing around the conversation.
Yes.
And beating around the bush.
And then she's standing up.
Oh
God, it
my
was so good. I
God, I loved her in that. I loved
that too. I loved it. It was like so good. And then the guy behind was like, even I knew what you were trying to get. Like, come on, dude. Not exactly subtle. Again, terrible, terrible person. If he had a question about this, he should have just asked her about it straight.
He's so immature.
Like, what is wrong with these people? So immature.
Oh my God. And then we get to the scene, which I laughed a lot, with Jay and Silent Bob.
Oh my God.
Dispensing their advice.
Oh my God.
I think I laughed every time Jay spoke. I don't know.
I
don't know why, because he's so rude.
So how many of their movies have you seen? Have you seen a lot of them?
Mallrats. Nope, that's a lie. I didn't see Mallrats.
Clerks.
I saw Clerks, Dogma.
Yep.
I have not seen Mallrats.
Same.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, my, interesting.
Oh, Clerks might be interesting. Oh, Dogma might be interesting.
Yeah.
Or rewatch it at some point in time.
I used to love Clerks.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yes, and I will tell you, I've always found Jay to be so obnoxious
and disgusting,
and I just hate, like, just never liked him.
Yeah.
I'm watching him this time. I don't know, maybe because freaking Holden is such a terrible character.
Perhaps.
I'm like, oh my God, he is absolutely fucking hilarious.
I loved him.
I did too.
I don't know.
I'm like, why do I like him
How
right
come
now?
I was so snotty about him back in the day?
Same.
Every time he appeared, I was like, gross.
Oh
and
my God.
Why is that? Like now, and for our
don't
middle
know.
age ones in our 50s, do we find him to be endearing?
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe because we have seen so many of these different people. And
maybe
you
because he's
like,
authentic. I feel like he's an authenticity.
It's the authenticity. It's that. And he's just so honest about, like, he just says what's on his mind. Like, it's so refreshing, right? I would much rather have someone like that who says what's on his mind than someone who's just holding it all in, like fucking Holden.
Holding it all in? Oh my God! Christina, you cracked the code. Because Holden is a weird name.
It is.
Yeah.
It
Holden.
is.
Holding it all in. Christina.
Fucking
He couldn't hold it in any longer. He should have.
He held
he really should have, though.
Yeah.
But all right.
Oh my
God.
Look
at
then
this.
Silent Bob. Silent Bob. Telling the whole goddamn story. Hilarious.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
So good. Look at this morose motherfucker right here. That's how it starts. Look at this morose motherfucker right here. And he goes, and then he says something like, "Kiss my grits." And he goes, "That's some funny shit, Alice."
Yeah,
and they're just looking at him like, "What are you talking about?"
Oh my God. He's so goddamn funny.
He's
in
like
this.
having problems with my girlfriend. Oh, she pressing charges. I get that a lot. I hate that. Jay is funny.
Jay is hilarious. The only problem I had with this whole scene with the two of them is I love the story.
I know what you're gonna say.
It's just too on the nose.
Exactly. Yeah, I knew that's what you were going to say. Yeah.
It's just too on the nose. The story is exactly
the same fucking story.
The same.
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't have been a little more, like, subtle.
Like, maybe the themes could have been similar.
But maybe
like,
with Holden...
It could have been about a really smart woman.
Right?
She was super popular and he wasn't. I mean, we're just talking about differences of experience. It doesn't have to be exactly on the nose, like
it's the
dot for
exact
dot.
same story.
Yeah, exactly.
But then again, Holden is so soft. Maybe he needed to have the exact same story to relate it back to himself. Oh my God, this guy. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, and then I just wrote, there's a real big vibe through my middle-aged lens of truly slut-shaming. And it really bothered me.
This is bad. Yeah, this is bad.
And that part, you said the movie hasn't aged well in many, many ways. I think this is one of those ways where it's like, I mean, slut shaming is like, it's just so, what's the word? It's like, it's so comparative. Like, it's like, is a person a slut only because they had a lot more sex than you? Like, it's like she has said, I was an adventurous girl. but he doesn't let it go. And by not letting it go, and by truly like just drilling her, like it's like it's like you are shaming her for fucking shit she can't do anything about.
Right.
It's done. This is your problem with this information, not that she did it.
1000%.
It's your problem that she did it.
Yep.
Like it's just like let it
It has
fucking
nothing
go.
to do with her at all.
Yeah.
It has everything to do with him.
It's
and
very
his
insulting.
insecurities.
He's very insulting. It's very insulting.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrible. I'm so glad they didn't end up together.
Yes,
That makes
that's right.
me.
Yeah.
That was, and I couldn't quite remember the ending.
Same.
And I'm like, fuck,
Yeah.
are they? Do they end up together?
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that
He
they
has
didn't.
a lot of growing up to do.
Oh man.
I did laugh out loud though when he's setting it all up and she is saying, "Please don't." He's setting up the threesome idea, and she's like, "Please don't say it." And
Yep.
I laughed when she started saying that, and then I laughed when he said, "What do you?" I did laugh. I credit Ben Affleck's acting with that one. When he's like, "What do you say?" And I
Oh my God.
laughed out loud. And Banky says, "Sure."
Yeah, he was like
And,
all. He was all
and
set for
Alyssa
it.
says, "No," and Banky immediately says, "Thank Christ."
Yeah. Banky was funny in this. I gotta tell
I
you.
thought Jason Lee's great in this.
He's really good.
And it's so funny, and I'm so glad we do this podcast because it's one of those things where it's like everything. It's like I want to be honest. I still really enjoy. I found this movie very entertaining, very edgy. Still, there's still a lot I really loved about it, but it's quite different of what I loved about it back then. It's so interesting.
Oh my God, it's such a.
Yeah.
I feel the same way, Brian. Yeah. It's really, really bizarre.
Yeah.
That we are. I mean, I think because we're looking at it obviously through a middle-aged lens, we're just pulling things out that's so important for now, right? And and it's so unique in that. Just the conversations that they have and the subjects and how some things aren't a big deal.
That's right. Yeah,
right? It's like,
right.
and it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Some of these things, it just shouldn't be a big deal. And the things that are a big deal back then are ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's all that insecurity, like, oh, you know, the sexual, like all that stuff. It's like, it's ridiculous.
It's that insecurity, but it's also the insecurity of, it's actually a little layered because it's also the insecurity of like, I will never find love. And now that I have found love, it's impossible because she is a lesbian. Like, so it's like, it kind of brings you in. I think for younger
what's really interesting
people,
about that
that
sentence you just said?
Yeah.
When you just said, I will never find love. And then what was the rest of it you said?
And then I found love, but it'll never happen because she's a lesbian.
When you started saying that sentence, I was thinking of it in Alyssa's point of view.
Oh, funny.
Saying, I will never find love because when I do, they're going to be a fucking asshole. It's always going to come back, and my past is going to bite me in the ass.
Yeah.
Isn't that so
That's
interesting?
so interesting.
I thought you were
I
going to
was
talk
thinking
about
of the
Alyssa's
Holden
point.
character because when you're watching it younger, you're like, oh, this poor guy. He's so lovelorn, you know?
Yeah.
And but now you're an adult and you're like, no, love
There's
is
a
love.
reason.
Yeah.
There's a reason.
Yeah. It's like love's important and all, but also respecting another human being is really important too.
Right. Yep.
No means no.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's so crazy.
And so then she says, I'm not your fucking whore. She slaps him in the face, and I just said, yes.
Yeah, you're not, babe.
I remembered that. Like you're saying, I don't remember how it really ended, but I remembered that scene. Mm-hmm. And just being like, oh, thank God. I mean, he needed a couple of slaps.
Yeah, he sure did. A couple kicks.
And then the acting at the end, I really thought that was probably one of her best moments when she kind of tears up. It's, you know, and then the woman sitting next to her starts talking about dinner and all that. And she says, just some guy I knew. I thought that was a really nice scene. At the same time, I'm going back to what you said earlier. It really tries hard to paint Holden as this very mature, good guy. And he is not. No. It's a little cloudy how much time has passed, although his goatee is exactly the same, and her hair is different. Something super weird, by the way.
Because he doesn't change.
Oh, because he's holding it all in. But Christina, did you rent it from the library?
I did.
So on the DVD and the movie poster, he doesn't have a goatee. Isn't that funny?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So I wonder if they tested it, like, people don't like Ben Affleck's goatee.
You know what?
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I noticed that for some reason when you just mentioned that. Yeah.
It was funny when I do remember seeing this movie being like, oh, he has a goatee. He looks so different with the goatee. And, but I remembered him having it, about to watch it again.
Very interesting.
But yeah, but I thought I do think it's a really good performance from Joey Lauren Adams, and I think that ending, she plays it really well.
She does.
She had feelings for him, there's no denying that and all that, but she also knew, like, oh, this was like some real fucking heartbreak, and you can just see it on her face, you see it in her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, I agree. So, did you say? Oh, do you have any other notes? Do I have any other notes? Let me look.
I will say this, like, in the beginning, there's there's those conversations about, like, where it makes it sound like she's just choosing this, and there's even that scene with her lesbian friends where, like, another one bites the dust, which could only ever be written by a straight man. I mean, lesbians do not bite the dust and go straight. I mean, but.
I do have a note about that, the whole conversation with them and the lesbians.
Oh, they're doing the pronoun. Why are you doing the pronoun?
Why are you playing the pronoun game?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. But yeah, and I think though it's just that thing, and I will flash back a little bit where people, anytime someone thinks it's like a choice, they're just choosing to be gay or choosing to be lesbian. It's like, it's so funny because you want people to realize, like, when you ask someone that, like, oh, you're as if you're saying it as if it's a choice or a direction or whatever. Like, it's like, what you're really saying is that you could be gay, but you're choosing to be straight. Correct. And it's like, and I don't think people get that. Certainly not in this movie. Because even the way Banky at times was talking to Alyssa was like, this is just a choice she made. And maybe, and like you're saying earlier, maybe that is a choice she made. But, for her. But I don't necessarily think that's the norm. I mean, people are born gay and, all that. But I think, like, but I think it's like when you question someone as if it's a choice, it's like it says much more about you and how you interpret sexuality than about them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be really honest. I loved this movie then, and I think it's really tough because I don't want to say less because I still think it was really good. I will say about the same because there are things that mattered more to me this time around that I paid more attention to that I think are done really well. And I think the acting is better than I remembered. And some of the ancillary, more kind of gross characters actually are much more relevant now. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say the same. I wish I could say more, but I can't. Yeah, because Holden is pretty bad and there's some things that did not age well. I'm going to say the same.
So I am actually going to say a little more.
Oh, okay.
Because when I first saw it, I liked it. I felt good about seeing it. I appreciated it. I didn't really remember a whole lot of it, which is kind of telling as to how I felt about it. And watching it now, I liked it more because it evoked so much more emotion in me. Mm-hmm. I feel like parts of it, I feel like the movie as a whole aged well.
Oh, okay.
Bits of it. And I only say that because it's kind of, it's hard to say, right?
Yeah,
so I say it because I feel like the characters, it's like you're looking at it in a different way. Like if you're looking at it now, you see clearly that Holden is the villain or is the bad guy.
Yes.
Whereas before he was kind of trying to be made out to be the good guy. Completely. Right? So I think looking at it now through a middle-aged lens, I liked it more because it seems more clear that he is the bad guy. And it really reiterates the reasons why he is the bad guy. And it's a very empowering movie for, especially, I guess, women, just because she is the one that was sort of the main character. Yeah. Could be for both, I suppose. Or even like the Jason Lee character is empowered, I guess. But for her, I feel like it's so much more empowering watching this movie because you may feel a little bit ashamed of your past. Mm-hmm. And watching this movie, it's a lot clearer that, like, no, you shouldn't. Like, your past is your past and you own it. Like, she's such a great, great character.
She is.
In that way. And she owns everything and she verbalizes it. And she's very well aware of why she does the things that she does. Mm-hmm. And she's not apologetic. No. And for that reason, I really feel like I liked it a lot more. Yeah. because I'm looking at it differently.
It's such a good movie, and it was such a good movie to watch right now too, when so many women's rights are under the microscope and up for debate, which is insane to me. But because she is like this Alyssa Jones character is such a fully realized character, and it's just because this movie puts her under the microscope, and at times really unfairly. And I think it's a really great movie to watch right now. So yeah, I definitely highly recommend it. So this budget, $250,000.
Oh my God!
I know.
Wow.
The 250. They made this movie 250. No, I feel like that's nothing. No, but that Christina.
I still think it's a lot for this movie. They had like three different sets.
Christina, like. Are you kidding? I was fucking stunned. It only cost $250,000 to get a movie made anyway. Oh my God, it's millions.
Well, it was considered an independent movie.
It was,
time,
but
right?
$250,000. I mean, I don't know. I was still surprised. It made $12 million.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's huge.
I can't believe that made that much money. That's crazy. It surprises me. I don't feel like a lot of people have seen it.
But the critics really loved it. Yeah. And so I think it got people to go see it. But I mean, I don't think it was ever in wide release.
No.
So I mean, 12 million on a, limited release is pretty good.
True.
But yeah, highly recommended. I have a match game.
I also have a match game.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Should I go first?
Sure.
Okay. Holden, good old Holden, said, "Welp. I think," because he would totally say "welp." I can see him saying Holden says "welp." Welp, I think Alyssa might be interested in women again. Last night, she came to bed with a blank. Ding. All right, so we're imagining that Holden and Alyssa have ended up together, but he believes Alyssa might be interested in women again. Last night, she came to bed with a blank.
With a dildo?
Fine. I said woman.
Oh!
Because he's so stupid.
Oh, God, he is stupid. He is so stupid.
I hate Holden.
All right, I have a match game. So Rick Derris, he is the one that... from the past. He wasn't the one talking.
Finger cuffs.
But he was the one. Yeah. He was the one. So he decided he wanted to write his own comic book after having this conversation with Banky about Alyssa.
Okay.
And he's called it Blanking Amy.
Ding.
All right, Rick Derris. He has his own comic book now about Alyssa. And it's called...
Banging Amy.
I said cuffing Amy.
Oh, that's so literal. Oh my God. Very good. Chasing Amy. That was
Amy.
Chasing
I don't
Amy.
know if it's on any streaming. How did you watch it?
So I watched it from the library as well. It is... it's on, so I believe it's on Showtime. If you have Paramount Plus, you can do the Showtime Plus option. I have this. I use this app called Just Watch, and it said it's on Paramount Plus, but that is a lie. It is on Paramount Plus if you have the Showtime add-on. Got it. Get it from the library.
I got it from the library.
Support your local library. And that's it for us, and for this episode of Old Roommates.
Thank you for listening. Please remember to follow us on Instagram or YouTube, where we have our episodes as well as a little extra.
And if you have any questions about our show, any suggestions for movies we could revisit, reach out to us at oldroommatespod@gmail.com.
Thanks again for listening.
This is Brian.
And this is Christina. Until next time.